You know what I want to be? For real, I decided this the other day. I want to be religious. And then you'll say stuff to like religious people like, well, I've never seen Jesus. And then they'll say some annoying like, well, can you see air?
It's so much better than that, brother.
Ruslan.
Hide your kids, hide your wife.
Explicit.
Okay, Chris Delia says something crazy on this podcast that we're going to talk about in terms of his relationship with faith and religion. And Chris, I really hope you see this video and I really hope you tap in because I got some words for him towards the end of this video.
You know what I want to be? For real, I decided this the other day. I want to be religious. I want to be a guy who's like believes in God and just goes to church sometimes. But is like one of those cool dudes that's like, yeah, you know, you don't have to believe in God, but I do. I don't want to have to push it on.
Sounds like he described a bunch of folks that watch our channel.
Yeah, there you go. He's tapping with the cool ones.
He's tapping in with yo, Chris, tap in, man. Let's let it rock.
You and shit. But I want to believe in something, man. I've been thinking about this the other day. And I told my friends and they laughed, dude. And it was funny, but I meant it, dude. It is funny to hear me say that, but also I mean it. I wish there was something, you know, that I could believe in, like a higher power, you know, and there are like my friends or my family, you know, something that's greater than myself that I can rely on and that can help me. And that's my family. That's my crew, you know? But it sucks because no matter how much I want to believe in God, there's always that thing where it's like, okay, I want it to be proven. And then people are like, but hey, dude, that's what faith is. And I'm like, can we get a little bit of proof though?
He wants to have faith. He wants to go to church casually, but not force his religion on other people, so on and so forth. So he says, but I wish there was more proof. However, people would just say it's faith. And Chris, listen to me, man. It's so much better than that, brother. It's so much better than that. First of all, faith is a confidence spectrum. It's a trust spectrum. And there's a substantial amount of good news about faith in Jesus, specifically anchored on the bodily resurrection of Jesus. That Jesus was a person who lived, all of history agrees on that. That Jesus was a person who was crucified, all of history agrees on that, okay? That he caused a ruckus, that he caused a lot of uproar with the Romans, that they thought he was going to be a revolutionary. Everybody believes that. Most scholars, I'm talking non-Christian scholars, I'm talking about Bart Ehrman, all these guys believe those things. Okay, now here is the controversial part, was Jesus rising from the grave. This is where we have to ask, did Jesus bodily rise from the grave? And is there sufficient evidence for that? And I would say yes. I would say the most sufficient evidence for that is what happened after. That this man from a little small town in Galilee comes out and he completely rocks and splits the world into half, like history splits. And not only that, his disciples then go on to do things. And this is where I think Christians, unfortunately, specifically Protestants, we're kind of illiterate to church history. But my brother, it's real. These guys went and spread the gospel to the known world. I'm talking about the apostle Thomas. You know Thomas, they call him Doubting Thomas, which I'm sure you probably identify with. Doubting Thomas is like, look, man, I won't believe it until I could put my fingers into the nails and into the scars. And Jesus shows it. That Thomas takes the gospel and plants churches in India. Bartholomew and Jude, you know, the book of Jude, they take the gospel to my origin of country, Armenia. They plant churches in Armenia and they start the apostolic church in Armenia. Mark, who wrote the gospel of Mark, takes it to Egypt, right? It spreads to Ethiopia. It spreads all around the world. And not just them, but then they have successors who then have successors. And we just had my friend Arthur on the channel. He talked about going to the gravesite of a descendant of Jude, the guy who wrote Jude. My friend went to a church in Armenia where he was standing at the gravesite of one person who was removed from Jesus. Church history testifies to the bodily resurrection because these folks had nothing to gain from lying about Jesus rising from the grave. There was nothing that they had to gain. They had everything to lose. Their lives, their families, their livelihoods, all of these different things they lost, yet they persevered, and most of them died horrible, terrific, martyr deaths for the cross. Ask yourself this question. Would you die for something that you knew was a lie? Because all these brothers, they would have had to know that Jesus didn't really rise from the grave, yet they died anyway. They would have had to know that, and they die. I wouldn't die for a lie. You wouldn't die for a lie. Doesn't make any sense. So, Chris, it's actually much better than that. It's not a blind faith. Well, I guess you just got to put your faith in Jesus and just, Jesus loves me. Bible tells me so. Fam, that it's actually better than that. Not to mention the radical conversion of people who place their faith in Jesus and become completely different people. That, bro, it's so much better than what you think it is and how it's been presented to you. And so I would encourage you, don't look at it as blind faith or proof. I need empirical data or I need blind faith. Brother, that's a false binary. That there's a lot of people that can look and say, look, what does the history say? What does the evidence say? What are the eyewitness accounts? What are all these things? When were the gospels written? What happened after? What does all these different things say? And then on the flip side, people can say, look at my life. My life is different. I'm transformed. I'm born again. I'm changed. I asked Jesus, if you're real, reveal yourself to me. And he did. And everything got flipped around upside down. I'm a whole new person.
Little bit of proof, though. Can one day Jesus just be like, and you look over and it's Jesus, and then he goes, poof, and you're like, okay, I have faith. I have faith. And then religious people will be like, but that's not faith, though, because you saw Jesus. And then you'll say stuff to like religious people like, well, I've never seen Jesus. And then they'll say some annoying ass shit like, well, can you see air? But you know it's there. And you're just like, Jesus Christ.
Pause
okay.
it. So I think air is a bad illustration. I think you could say, is the law of gravity real? We know that the law of gravity is real, right?
Yeah.
Even though you can't tell it, you could still quantify it and measure it. And I think in the same way, the resurrection is real based on what history has testified, based on what people are experiencing, the transformative power that it's a and both. And again, what did the scripture say? 500 witnesses. Jesus was on this earth for 40 days after. And these are documents that even if guys like Bart Ehrman, and look up Bart Ehrman, who disagrees and isn't a Christian, but even he would say that the apostles and the disciples believe that Jesus rose, and they believe that they experienced something supernatural, even though he may not agree. So I think it's actually way more real and way more true than you would ever imagine. Look, you got anything to say, Zach, before we move on?
No, I mean, I think the illustration is cool, but it's just an illustration. That's not an argument for proof of God or Jesus. But what you're saying is that Chris should look into the evidence for Christ rising. And if Christ rose, we can assume that all the miracles were also true.
Yes.
If he rose from the dead,
Yes.
there was 500 witnesses, and they all said that. And they all accounted that, and all these people died for these reasons. If they didn't have that, then we can assume that what Jesus was saying on earth was also true.
If the resurrection happened, then the miracles are true. If the resurrection happened, that means that the New Testament letters and the epistles are true and trustworthy.
But all of these feelings, how could you feel all of these feelings without a Jesus? How could you feel all of these feelings without a higher power? And you know what, dude? Maybe. And I'm not the guy who's like, no. There's no Jesus, or there's no God. I should stop saying Jesus. There's different religions. There's no God, right? I can't say there's no God. How the fuck do I know? Who the fuck do I think I am to know about that? Whoa, he's starting off hot. But I want to be religious. Hey, dude, I want to jump in the lake, right? I want to put all my clothes in and jump in the lake. And have another man pet my head. I guess I'm just not there yet, man. I hope I am.
I
Really.
appreciate his
You see what
honesty, man. I appreciate his vulnerability. I appreciate his humility here. I think it's actually very refreshing.
And I think he's giving a look into what other people that are not believers yet may be thinking.
Yeah.
And skeptics may be thinking that aren't vulnerable enough to share that.
Yeah.
To share that they want to jump in.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. And if you want to jump in, friends, I'm telling you, it's so much better than what you think it is. It's so there's so much more history on the side of Jesus being who he claimed to be. There's so much more value in living your life the way that Jesus prescribes us to live our lives. And I don't mean it just to make it a pragmatic argument. I came to the faith through the door of apologetics. Apologetics is the defense of the faith. I had to have a lot of questions answered, and I read a lot of books, and I listened to a lot of people, and I was wrestling. I was reading the Quran. I was reading the reasoning for scriptures because I was dating a Jehovah's Witness girl, and I was going to a seeker church, and I grew up Armenian apostolic, and that, some stuff had happened there, changed the church hurt. And so I came in through the door of apologetics, and I promise you the history is on your side.
When you're running into a religious guy, he's not a piece of shit. He's just living his own life smiling. It's a very convoluted and intricate thing to think about.
That's good. All right, hey, listen, Chris, I really hope you see this video, man. Please tap in with me. I don't want no favors from you. I don't want to interview you. I don't need no clout. Talk to me. There's a lot of other brothers I can connect you with. I really want to have this conversation with you, and I promise you it's so much better than what you think it is. And if you really are looking for some degree of evidence, some degree of quote-unquote proof, there's more than enough there. I'd love to send you some books, send you some podcasts. There's even movies made about this, like The Case for Christ, which is an actual theatrical release on Netflix, everywhere. So if you guys are wrestling with this, I promise you it's so much better than what you could even imagine. And that is the good news of Jesus, that Jesus comes, he lives the life that we could never live. We could never be perfect. He dies the death that we should have died on the cross in our place, and he rises. And the apostles, history, all of these things testify to the fact that that event split history in two and completely revolutionized the world. And 2,000 years later, we still follow this man named Jesus.
And it said that Simeon blessed God.